We used to have a church, essentially a place where we went to remind us of the things we care about and that matter. But many of us aren't religious today, and we don't have this thing that we go to every week that sort of reminds us, regardless of what your work conditions into you or what society tells you, like this is what actually matters to you. And so, in some ways, Mindform, which is my sort of community platform, it's a kind of secular community, or you could call it a training gym for your mind. It's a membership platform designed around virtue and self-mastery and our values and our well-being. And so I think having a community like that, a place where you can connect with other people around these things that actually matter to you, because there's not really another good place in modern society for doing that, I think is really important. But I want there to be a place that's almost like a gym membership, only it's a gym for your mind, where you can go and connect with other people and have almost like group therapy sessions and work on your personal development and wisdom and these things that really matter, but that haven't been built into our economic systems as deeply. I recently read How Religion Evolved, which makes an interesting argument on the communal functions of it. And I've particularly focused, when I've talked about religion, on the psychological functions. I tend to define religion as a technology. And I think you can break up what that technology does into a few different components. And you can see how it's evolved in a similar way to technologies. If you look at different sects and different religions through time and which ones have been preserved, it's essentially those that serve the most psychological needs. So you've got, for example, an afterlife component. We naturally fear death. We don't want to die. And so the religions that have stuck around generally provide some function for putting you at ease about your own death, whether it's because you're going to live in an afterlife, or there's a karmic cycle of rebirth, or whatever it is. So that's one of them. There's a community function of bringing you together with others, right? There's like, I can relax because it's all in someone else's control function. And so there are a lot of it you can view as a technology that solves emotional problems that we naturally have and makes it easier for us, kind of comforts us in some ways. And I think in my work, I'm in some ways trying to address those same needs in a secular way and saying, we don't need that myth to address this. There are other ways to become at peace with your own death. We don't need an afterlife function. We just need to address mortality and help people wrap their heads around it. So
what about the community element? Do you have so I know Mindform is its own, how much of a community is that, or where does the emphasis on community come in?
I mean, it is fundamentally a community, but currently it's an online community. In the future, I would like to make it an in-person community and have essentially, I like to think of them as psychological health and fitness centers or community centers, but you could think of them as secular churches as well. They would be centered around actually getting together with people in person and working on personal growth and collective growth. But so the community component, I think, does have to be addressed. And right now we've got Zoom calls and comments and stuff, but so more stuff coming.
Is it the same? Like, how many people will be on a Zoom call? Is there?
Currently, there's anywhere from 3 to 50. I mean, we've had some very small, intimate ones. We've had some that are intended to just be, one-on-one conversations. We've had others that are more like bigger events where there's one person kind of hosting and asking questions and discussion. They both have pros and cons, but
and is it weekly? Is there a regularity to meetings?
Yeah, I host monthly events, but there is another member who hosts weekly conversations that are a little more informal, and I always go when I can. It's a ton of fun just getting to talk kind of like you and I are right now, but in a group kind of community setting.
That's awesome, man. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And I've always I've had this dream since I think I discovered philosophy, at least since I discovered the ancients, that of I was like, why are there not schools of philosophy? Like,
Oh yeah.
where did that go? Where is the because universities is not what it is. You know what I mean? There's this intellectual level. It's just like, no, practical philosophy, like eudaimonia. Why are we not gathering together and trying to figure out how to live the best lives possible and figuring out what the fuck is going on, like that other stuff as well. But yeah, just and I had this dream of just having fear workshops of just like, hey, we're gonna just you're afraid of heights, we'll put you up a ladder, we'll measure, just actually shit that matters, and just having a university where it's like, hey, like at the end of this, you won't come out with a piece of paper that says you're a specialist in this fucking one subject, but you will, whatever you apply yourself to in life after this, you will thrive at, because you've gone through an education as a person rather than an education in a subject. So learning how to swim rather than the theory of swimology. I love that you're doing it. That is amazing. And I love the idea of you setting up physical things. I just think the world needs that. And I might be too lazy to do it, so I hope there's a Mindform gym opening up somewhere near me at some point, because that's really cool.
Well, you've very much described the vision of Mindform, thinking about Plato's Academy and that kind of stuff as a big part of what kind of this emerged from. And it's funny you talk about like overcoming fear of heights, because that's kind of what we're doing in the anxiety algorithm inside Mindform. And so it is, early stages. I'm hoping to be able to build these in-person centers before too long. But yeah, I mean, the Epicurean garden too is another major influence in my mind. We need that. We need a community that gets together and just has like great conversations with friends. And so
you could say the Lyceum Academy element has been co-opted by university, but it's hard to see the Epicurean garden as being co-opted in that way, because communes are closer to what the Epicurean thing is than universities. But it's still, I just
it's
that idea.
It's funny, we have all these other institutions sort of circling around it. I feel like the formal education system is kind of like adjacent to it. Psychotherapy is adjacent to it. Religious church is adjacent to it. A fitness gym is adjacent to it, but it's only really centered around physical. It's like, where is the combination right at the center of all of this? I'll say I've got a platform called Mindform that in many ways is meant to be like the healthy social media platform. And crucially, it's subscription based and not advertising based. So there's no incentive to just, boost engagement and get people outraged and all that. The incentive is to keep them happy and keep them wanting to renew and really serve their values rather than their strongest desires. But it will never be as profitable to serve values as it is desires. I've long reflected on the medicalization of mental health. I mean, just saying that phrase, it sounds very sterile and serious.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, let's look at the equivalent in the physical health world, right? We've got physical therapy, obviously, which if you get injured, if you hurt a muscle or something, then yeah, you need to go to physical therapy, right? But you also can go and exercise. You can do CrossFit and yoga or whatever, even if you're not hurt. Well, where is the mental equivalent of CrossFit, right? Or whatever it is. And it's kind of like there's almost not one. And so that's what is behind psychitecture and that whole sort of discipline that I've coined in my first book. And then, Mindform is my version of a mental health gym, essentially.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I mean, I love the idea of the kind of the mental fitness gym. It's like, you don't just go to the gym because you have a physical issue. I mean, you usually wouldn't go to the gym at that point. So it's kind of like, let's be good to kind of go there in the first place. I think that's an important piece.
Do you work one-on-one with people, or do you work with them through the materials that you provide on your website?
I don't do any one-on-one work, but I do have a private community called Mindform that is, it's got all the programs, it's got all these resources on it. It's a paid membership, it's application only. But the idea is to kind of provide a community and almost a mental training center. Like, we all have memberships at gyms for exercise of our bodies, but we don't really have a place like a membership for our minds. And so this is a community and a training platform for self-mastery and psychitecture, all kind of built into one. Now, philosophy becomes a much more academic thing, and school is centered around being good employees versus being good human beings that are capable of being happy and giving back to the world. So that's why I built Mindform, which is kind of a community centered around the good life. Yeah, I think we need a community, particularly those who aren't necessarily religious, right? Those who don't subscribe to a view that would really make sense for them to go to church and something like that. I don't want just anyone wandering in, and it's actually application only to ensure that we have a really high quality group who are have the right values and focus and everything. But there's a video on there that'll show you about it. So,
well, thank you so much for that. I just want to make sure that our audience has all of the tools, to access your resources, and really appreciate the work you're doing.
Oh yeah. So Mindform is it's currently an online community. So I've got you have to apply to join, but it's this really incredible philosophical personal growth community. But I want to do much bigger things with Mindform. I'm working on designing really custom software that will be almost like a Duolingo for the mind, in terms of like a gamified training experience that'll teach you how to use these tools. I want to build brick and mortar Mindform centers at some point, where you almost have like the mental equivalent of a fitness gym you can be a member of.